I guess you're supposed to start when it gets quiet, right?
Weird.
I don't fall to peer pressure. I'm wondering where our distinguished president.
Yeah, you
of
might
our
need a
college
president.
is.
And more importantly, Misty, right? So,
Yeah, or, yeah, Misty's over there. So, we're going to. I think it's been May of 2020 was the last time I was able to just hit this gavel on this piece of wood. Feels so good to finally be here together. And it feels so odd to look at people with masks on yet. And the day will come, hopefully, where we can actually see people smile and we can see people's facial expressions. So good afternoon, welcome to Grand Rapids Community College Board of Trustees meeting Monday, September 21, 2020. And I'm wondering if you, Dr. Pink, or you fellow trustees have anyone you would like to introduce us to at this time.
I do not, Chairperson.
Anyone? Our first item of business then is the approval of the agenda. Trustees, now is the time to move anything from the consent agenda that you would like further consideration on. Any changes that you would like to make to today's agenda? Hearing none, a motion please to approve the agenda as it is presented.
So move.
Thank you. Is there support for that?
Support.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. We now move to our first of two public comments. This public comment is limited to anyone in our audience who wishes to address the board on any matter that's in today's agenda. Our second public comment will come at the end of this meeting, where you're invited to make comment on anything that relates to college activities. You wish to come forward, you simply come to the podium, introduce yourself, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And just please know that the board will listen, but the board likely will not respond to your comments at this time. Seeing no one coming forward, we'll move right into the most fun part of this meeting. And that is, we are delighted to have the swearing in of 3 different public officials. So the first of that is Trustee Sal Lopez, and we're so honored to have Judge Sarah Smolinski with us here for that. I'm going to turn it over to you, Judge Smolinski, and you can take it from here and give Trustee Lopez the instructions that he needs.
All right, thank
Okay.
you so
All
very much, Chair Cucci, and it's such an honor for me to be able to be here in this room at GRCC. And Salvador Lopez, if you come and join me and just stand in front of me here and face me, I'll ask you to repeat after me. As one alum to another alum, this gives me, yes, this gives me a great deal of pride and excitement to be here. I've been able to stand in this room swearing in a number of the trustees, and it's a true honor for me. So thank you for allowing me to come. Salvador Lopez, I'll ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Salvador Lopez,
I, Salvador Lopez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of the member of the Board of Trustees
of the member of the Board of Trustees
of Grand Rapids Community College
of Grand Rapids Community College
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
You are now officially a trustee of the Board of Trustees here at GRCC. Since we did that in under 3 minutes, Chair Cucci, I just want to say I know that Sal would have appreciated having his family here. They're here in your heart, and you know they're supporting you, but because of the pandemic and whatnot. But just know that so many people are so proud of you and wish you every happiness. And you're joining an elite group of wonderful leaders that make this one of the, well, let's face it, the best community college ever.
Judge Smolinski, it is always an honor to have you at our meetings. You add just a fun level of energy to these meetings. I'm now disappointed now that I didn't ask that we could just go home now after this. But there are other things that we have to do. So thanks for being
Well, thank
with us.
you,
Thanks for
Chair.
being such a positive voice for this college.
Yeah.
And we just appreciate your
Well, it's a
support.
huge part of all of us, and it's what helped make some of us the way we are today, and that's such a good thing. And President Pink, thank you for your leadership, and Chair Cucci, we just appreciate all the work you do, and all the Board of Trustees, we thank you. Because sometimes it is a thankless job, but we know what you're doing, and we appreciate it so much to help the young people in our community and beyond be the best that they can be. And that is a Raider, baby. Go Raiders. Okay.
And Trustee Lopez, we've said this before, but on behalf of the 6 colleagues of yours, thanks for your willingness to be part of this team. If you get the same reaction some of us get when we publicly state that we are members of the Board of Trustees of Community College, people speak with pride. People wonder how much money we make. We tell them that it's nothing. We do get a Raider card and we get free parking. And we lose sight of the fact sometimes that we also get to help shape voice and shape perspective for, and she said it earlier, the finest community college in the nation. So thanks for being part of this team. So. I'm gonna invite Chief Whitman to come to the microphone. And we have 2 officers that we're privileged to swear in also this afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome to the front my 2 newest officers, Officer Michelle Tech and Tim Nelson, who are both alums of GRCC.
So I get the privilege of swearing the 2 of you in, and we're going to do this in chorus. So I'm going to state a line, and you are going to just repeat after me, if you will. So I just invite you to raise your right hand. And this is the first line. It's going to be I, and then you state your name. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm. Okay, so here we go. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of a Grand Rapids Community College police officer. Of the Grand Rapids Community College police officer, according to the best of my ability. Thank you again so much for your willingness to do this. We're honored that you're part of this team. And I'm going to now turn you guys back over to Chief Whitman. She's got a couple of badges, I think, that she's going to present. And if you could do that at this time.
I do. And again, because their families weren't able to be with us today, I get the privilege of getting their badges on it. When I say privilege, it's not as easy as it might look. Even though there's holes in there. Sir, I know this is unusual for the board, but it is an honor for them to be able to present themselves to me when they swear them. So thank you again.
Honored to do it. An honor to have been part of this. So annually, we have a strategic value resolution that is presented to us that we need to approve. I'm going to invite Lisa Freiberger to the podium to review that resolution for us prior to our taking action.
Good afternoon, and thank you. That's hard to follow. This isn't nearly as exciting, but incorporated in your packet, incorporated in your packet was, as Chairperson Cucci referenced, the typical local strategic values resolution. This is part of our annual State Aid Act. We do not yet have an official State Aid Act for the upcoming 21-22 fiscal year. However, we are very certain that this requirement will remain, and it is still due to be posted on our website prior to your next official board meeting. So we are bringing this to you now. This resolution has not changed. It is exactly what you reviewed last year. The resolution asks us to demonstrate that we are meeting 4 out of 5 best practices in 3 separate categories. The 3 categories, as you can see in the resolution, are around economic and business development and partnership. The second is around educational partnership, and third around community service. I believe we can clearly demonstrate that we meet all 5 in each category. So we're very pleased to present this resolution to you. It is tied to 5% of any increase in the budget, in our state operating budget, that we might receive. Happy to answer any
All right.
questions.
Prior to accepting a motion to approve, we'll give opportunity for questions for clarification, if there are any. Anyone? A motion then to approve the resolution as presented in our material.
So moved.
Thank you. Support for that. There's support as well. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that same sign. That motion carries. Lisa, I'm going to just ask you to stay there. I know, I'm sorry. You can take a break for a minute while we get to the executive limitation monitoring report. Once a year, as you know, that we have opportunity to just review each of our 5 strategic goals that we have set. Embedded in those goals are executive limitations. And I'm going to ask if you, Kathy Kubiak, who's already standing there ready to go, if you would present that report to us at this time.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees, President Pink, and members of the audience. I'm going to take a few minutes in this recorded message and share some of our workforce statistics for our GRCC employees. We've done this for, I think this is my 11th year of presenting workforce statistics. This is in response to the Board of Trustees policy regarding treatment of people. And our workforce statistics help us to reflect our progress towards equal employment opportunities. So I am going to share my screen and go through our workforce statistics. All right, this is the report that you would have received via email from Misty. And I'm not going to go through every page today, but of course, at the end, I'll be available for questions. But I did want to highlight some of the information here. Page 2 has a lot of highlights to talk about. So first of all, our measurement date is always November 1st. So looking back in many of these slides, you'll see 5 years of information provided for your review. But as of November 1st of 2020, our workforce was represented by a total of 645 regular full-time and part-time positions. These are positions that have benefits here at GRCC. Of the 645, 147 are employees of color, or 22.8%. You can see that we've made some progress in this area. And our female population at 332 total is currently at 51.5%. And as you can see, for 5 years, we've definitely ranged between 51 and 52% very consistently. We do like to include at the beginning here a summary of our students here at GRCC, specifically our students of color. And in this case, at fall of 2020, our students of color were at 29.4% of the total. We've seen increases in this percentage over the years. It's always been our goal to be within 5% of this number. As we work to hire a diverse workforce, we're not there yet, but we are making some progress. I'd like to move now to page 6 to highlight a comparison, if you will. So this information will compare, I like to point out, our employees of color at GRCC currently, at this point of measurement, is at 22.8%. And then as we compare ourselves to our colleagues here in Michigan, two-year public colleges, they're at 20.4%. So we are above the benchmark here in Michigan. Next, I'd like to focus on pages 8 and 9 for a minute, specifically starting with our new hire activity. Again, you'll see 5 years worth of information. Looking at the most recent year, we did have 48, there we go. We did have 48 new hires during this period. Again, 11/1 of 19 through 10/31 of 20. And you can see what percentages are reflected for these new employees that joined GRCC. So in total for these 5 years, our hire rate for employees of color has been at 25.5%. And then moving to the next page, on page 9, our separation information. Again, we had 48 separations during this 1 year period. And our total, looking at our separations for employees of color, if we were to add these 4 columns up, we are at 19.4%. So one of the important measurements that is critical to monitor would be to make sure that our hiring rates are above our separation rates. So 5-year averages of 25.5 hiring rate and 5-year average of 19.4 separation rate indicates that those are good statistics. We still need to do a better job at hiring and retaining our employees of color. So I did want to take a minute to talk about our change for our staff hiring processes. You've probably seen announcements and opportunities for training and an update via GRCC, that have been in GRCC today. But last year, we were involved in a project with Hire Reach to develop an evidence-based selection process, also known as EBSP. Hire Reach has been a grant-funded initiative involving the DeVos Foundation, Kellogg Foundation, Talent 2025, and West Michigan Works. Our HR team was part of a cohort to learn, to develop, and to implement a process for our staff positions here at GRCC. Evidence-based selection is a fair, objective, data-driven strategy, and it helps organizations make better hiring decisions. And we've seen proven results from some of our West Michigan employers here. The results have shown an improvement in the quality of hire, a reduction in first-year turnover, as well as an increase in workforce diversity. So we began our work when we made announcements, when we were ready to implement. I did an SLT presentation, and that was in October of 2020. We began using this process for staff positions. And I did a preliminary check as of last Monday, because I knew that I wanted to report out to this group, where are we? So our progress for evidence-based selection hiring as of Monday the 13th, of our external hires to the organization, 6 of these are employees of color, or 37.5%. So we're making some progress. And I'd like to take a minute to talk about our promotions. So again, looking at this report, you'll see 5 years worth of data. We had 19 employees who had promotions during this time frame. And of that percentage, you can see our 5-year average. Sorry, I wanted to point that out. We had 26.3% of our promotions were employees of color. So we're making progress. But then more recent progress with evidence-based selection, I looked at our internal promotions. We've had 27 of them under the evidence-based selection process over the course of this past almost year. And 10 of the 27 internal promotions are employees of color, and that's 37%. So I'm happy to report some early statistics and sharing on our success with evidence-based selection. So moving to page 11, I want to talk a little bit about qualified applicants and numbers of applicants, but it's something that we monitor here in Human Resources to make sure that our recruitment efforts are bringing in qualified applicants. We do have an opportunity for them to self-identify. It is not a requirement, but many of them do. You could see that we have a high rate, we have a high rate of self-identification at 89.7%, 46.6% have indicated they're female, and applicants of color at 28.9%. So that's important. We want to make sure that our applicant pools are rich in diversity. And then the last slide that I want to highlight on the presentation is our slide that captures some information about our adjuncts. We've kept many years listed here, total number of adjuncts at 332 for winter of 21. I did get a count from this first payroll for adjuncts. Adjuncts are currently up a little bit at 379. But at that measurement period of winter of 2021, you can see that our percentage of that group that are represented by people of color is at 9.3%. And looking at, you can see that history, we've averaged, it looks like, between 9 and 10% for most years. So those are the highlights of the actual report. And I would like to take time now to answer any of your questions. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording and talk about whatever, or try to respond to your questions. Thank you.
Go ahead. Let's just have a time of conversation. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Thank you, Kathy, for this extensive report. I missed those folks who self-identify as people of color who are not people of color. Are they, what percentage of this, what percentage of people do so identify as a person of color who are not? And are those included in the statistics, or is that a separate category?
Okay, so let me understand your question. Of our total applicants, we had 89.7% who self-identified. The people of color, applicants of color, were represented by 28.9% of that pool, or 373. So I'm not really sure what information you're looking at.
That's the piece that I missed.
Okay.
So they're two separate categories. In other words, you separate those folks who self-identify and those folks who are people of color. They're two separate categories in your
Correct.
statistics.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So I also really enjoyed the details of this report. And I think I read something about you, July 2022 or something. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
But with this document, I think it's a third bullet point up when you're talking about 10 of 27 internal promotions. You see where I'm referencing? Let me just go on and ask my question. If
Okay.
10 of 27 internal promotions are employees of color, I know one of the biggest things that I tend to hear is people getting actionable feedback to actually grow when they don't get a position, to put them in a position. Might you talk just a little bit about the type of coaching or feedback that they do get? I'm just curious about that. And again, really enjoyed
this report. I have additional questions, but I'm just going to leave it at that question.
We'll start with that one. Good.
Okay.
Yes, all of our internal applicants do receive feedback from the HR representative who assisted on that search. Sometimes it's in email if we don't reach them by phone, but we always welcome that opportunity to talk further and to make sure they understand what training or resources are available for them for career development. Mhm.
You mentioned, Brenda, you
I'm not
had
gonna
other
ask more
questions.
questions.
You're
Nope,
good?
that's it.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
thank you.
right. Other questions? So let's step above the numerous statistics just for a moment and just highlight for us the one thing of this report that strikes you as a significant point of pride for us.
We're making slow progress.
Huh?
And then the point of pride for me is the work that the evidence-based selection, the
Yeah.
early reporting I was able to share. So, you know, when you're looking at workforce statistics, it is a moving target.
Yeah.
It depends on who retired yesterday or, you know, who's coming in and joining, but we need to keep our efforts to have processes in place
Yeah.
that are fair, equitable, and removing biases. So we're very excited about the progress. I'm very excited. I know my team is and the leaders in the room about our evidence-based work so far.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for referencing back October 2020, because I think it was at that meeting that you filled us in on some of the details of evidence-based selection. And that's helpful for us if we want to go back and take a look at those particulars. So thank you.
Yes, and we shared the training video during that session. But if anyone wanted to learn more, we have training sessions. Typically, we're still doing them about once a month. I think we've had about 85 or 86 employees complete them so far. And then we had many employees involved in the process as we were learning and building and designing our evidence-based process.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So one of the goals of evidence-based selection process is to eliminate barriers. And so that helps all employees. It particularly helps people of color and women because usually have a larger barriers to face. What other barriers do you see that we as a board could be helping you eliminate in order to continuously improve these numbers? I heard you say slow progress. Sometimes these things just take a long time in general, but what else can we be doing as a board to help you move this work ahead?
Well, minimally, you know, continue to do your good work to in the community to talk about what a great place GRCC is to work and learn. You know, we've been, in my opinion, an employer of choice for many years, but we also know that the market is pretty tough. We are seeing a decrease in some of our applicant pools. So keep doing what you're doing to share the good story of GRCC.
I would even bookmark what Kathy just said about your help in spreading the word. One thing that we look at is the fact that all the data that you guys see about employment across the country right now, and right here in our own city, when you see all the signs and all the things around need people. As Kathy mentioned, this institution for a long time as an employer of choice really didn't have to think about the idea of how much we have to get out and promote this campus, because it does so much in promoting itself and has been one of those places. But now in the environment we're in, it also pushes us now to rethink what that looks like in terms of how we help this community understand the value of being an employee, a GRCC family member. And so that's, I just reiterate what Kathy said, just making sure that you, as being ambassadors for this college, that you are one of those mouthpieces to spread the word, because it is growing in challenge in terms of getting the kind of workforce you need.
Just to add on to that, as an employer in the past, we didn't have to, the Cascade Engineering, we didn't have to recruit very much because people came to us.
Yep.
This is a whole different world now. And what I'm hearing is that we can help advocate in the community. I would like to even get more specific and identifying what are things and specific you want us to be doing. We all do different things. We're all out in the community. We all have different jobs, and I think we're advocates, but to be more purposeful
Yeah.
saying, you know what, I need a board member at this meeting saying this. I need a board member to be a part of this organization. I need just being more specific so we can make sure we're doing
We're doing
what
it.
the
Yep.
college needs us to do.
Definitely. Part of it is, and to that point, trustee Brame, it is historically last 4.5 years, history. Historically has been steeped around, hey, could you be at this event? Could you go to this dinner? Could you go to this conference? We still do that because when you have presence there as a GRCC trustee, speaks volumes. But you're right. Now it's time for us to think even deeper about what that kind of involvement could mean for promotion of the institution. So thank you for that.
The last thing I would just say is, I think that sometimes when you're known as being a great institution, and GRCC is, because of people like you, that sometimes you don't look at data that can be hard and take action. And the fact that you're engaging in the evidence-based selection process and looking at the data, I think that is something to lean into, and kudos for looking at this data because some people don't. So I'm grateful for that.
As a board, we don't take action on this report. We just express our appreciation for your work and for the report that you gave, Kathy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to move on our agenda for a financial update. I'll invite Lisa back to the podium for that.
Thank you. Included in your packet were your standard set of financial statements and investment information. The information is for July and August at this point in time, so fairly slow activity for us. You'll see tuition revenue coming in at about the pace that we anticipated it. Salaries are mostly related to the summer beyond July 1 work, as well as our standard staffing for those 52-week employees. Nothing unusual or significant to report in those statements themselves, although I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. The other thing I would like to point out is in the purchasing agenda, we have our standard purchasing agenda that was included in your packet. We also have what I'm going to call the catch-up agenda from those items that had been approved previously through the process that you defined for us when we didn't have board meetings, and we haven't for a couple of months. So you'll see a number of action items, those items that are over $100,000 that were approved by Chairperson Cucci and Dr. Pink in the absence of a formal board meeting. Many of those, and there are several, so many of those are related to our HERF or our federal stimulus funding. A lot of them related to furniture that we were able to put in classrooms, as well as IT expenses. There is also a large purchase there for our wayfinding process in the signs that we are now having manufactured and are being close to ready to install in waves for sure. But we are very excited about being able to move forward with those. The wayfinding process started a very long time ago, pre-COVID, and got delayed a bit as some of that work had to be redirected. But we are moving forward with that. You will start to see some signs across the institution. If you remember back to that work, all of our building signs were redesigned and will be replaced. We're having gateway signs, so you can actually tell when you arrive on our campus. That will be installed. And then we have both our pedestrian traffic direction as well as vehicular traffic directional signs that are also being replaced or redesigned. Some of those are still working through the final processes with the city, but all will be forthcoming shortly.
Thanks, Lisa. Are there questions at all on any of the numbers that were presented in our agenda packet? Anything? Hearing none, thanks again for the good work. Appreciate it. Thanks also for pointing out the number of decisions we made in between meetings. And those are in our agenda packet to be recorded. We're going to move on then to updates and reports, inviting Kathy Mullins and Lisa Dopke to the podium to give a foundation report.
Thank you. So I'm presenting the Grants Department report, the annual report for 2020-2021. As you can see from the report, we had an exceptional year. I think that is a combination of both having the right people on the bus, both in the Grants Department and in the other areas of the college, and it's aligning with the opportunities that were available last year. There were 2 very large Department of Labor grants that Julie Parks and her team were very well positioned for. So all of that coming together really resulted in a very good year for us. Looking ahead, I think that we're going to continue to see funds for workforce training, as well as student success and retention areas. So last year, the college received 28 grant awards totaling $19.2 million. It was the largest single year fiscal total that the college has ever received since we started tracking data in 2006. And then over the last several years, we have started implementing grant compliance efforts just to make sure that we remain sort of at the top of the game and that we're at capacity and can compete for those kinds of proposals. Points of pride for us are the GRCC Center of Excellence for Veteran Student Success. I've been here since 2008, and the college has always wanted to start such a center. And so we've applied for grant funding several times, but this time we got the award. So that was really exciting. And then of course, the 2 Department of Labor grants, and we are expanding our TRIO program. So we got a second TRIO Student Support Services grant, in addition to our regular program, which is one of the largest in the nation. It serves 475 lower income and first generation college students. We were able to expand that and to students who are specifically in STEM majors. We also, it's not part of this report, but we were also able to bring in an Educational Opportunity Center grant, which is also a highly competitive TRIO grant. So we're very excited about that. Yeah.
Questions or comments for Lisa?
I have a question. Is the TRIO expansion, is that the 426,000 one that was recently publicized? Is that?
I think
Or
that's the Educational Opportunity Center.
Yeah, the educational, and during my report, I'm going to have Provost Knettle talk about that one. It's a $1.2 million that Educational Opportunities TRIO.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah,
What else?
you're welcome.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Just a comment and congratulations. It's
Thank you.
really remarkable. The Early Childhood Laboratory, which is a
Yes.
phenomenal facility.
It is.
Do you know what they're doing with $303,000?
So that covers our play and learn groups that they partner with Grand Rapids Public Schools and several other community organizations to go out into the community and do play and learn groups that are just open to the general public. It's funded by the Kent County Millage, Early Childhood Millage. That also includes our childcare access means parents and school grants. And so that provides free childcare for students who are enrolled in some workforce programs. They get free childcare or on a sliding scale, depending on their income. So it's great. Yeah.
Question.
So obviously 19.2 was a record.
Yes.
But 28 grants, is that higher than normal? Do you expect
That is.
to see that number trend that way going forward?
We hope so. Yeah, yes. Yeah, and I think as we've gradually increased the capacity of the office, anything that's available and that there's interest in, there has to be interest among the faculty and staff who actually have to run the programs. And so we could write grants all day and increase that number, but unless we have interest in actually running the programs, that would not be the right thing to do.
Do you have any idea how many you submit? What's your hit rate?
We submitted 28 last year, which we
Sorry, say it again?
can 28. We also
100%.
So sometimes we submit them in one fiscal year and they're awarded in the next.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's exciting. We can do more. So
Okay, hold on. Stop. So Trustee Brame, it's a good question,
Yeah.
and you have a very modest response there.
Okay.
I wanted to, before you can get into this point, I wanted to bookmark this because Lisa and her team, along with many others on this campus, when you think about hitting 28 grants, $19.2 million in a pandemic environment, That's incredible for a community college as well, to have that type of work being done. And you see, Trustee Siegel, with your question about something that is very specific around early childhood, that woman just bam, right on it, because of the good work that happens with her office. And so I was going to call her out anyway and ask you to thank her and her team and our campus, because the work that you see on that screen is no small undertaking for a community college to achieve. And I would challenge and put that work that you see on that screen. I mean, there are other community colleges across the country that are way larger than GRCC and have some very large, huge metro area, robust things around workforce development. I challenge you to find any college our size that is in an area the way we are. I challenge any of you to find someone who's doing that kind of work. So Lisa,
Thank you.
you and your folks, awesome job. Thank you for what
Thank
you
you.
do.
I was going to say, Lisa, that the 19.2 million, 28 grants is just incredibly good news.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, it only sets a baseline now for next year. That's the danger of having such success. So I want you to know that we realize that tension. And so you keep reaching as high as you can, knowing that we're not expecting that your highest high will be a baseline for tomorrow's high.
Right.
Okay, so
Well,
you
thank
just keep reaching for it, and we'll keep supporting you in every way we can.
All right,
So
thank you.
good work, good work. All right, Kathy Mullins, top that.
I will say, Lisa Dopke is very modest, and Lisa Dopke is known, I say, throughout the land. She's getting phone calls all the time from people asking, how did you do this? How do I do this? How many federal grants were you awarded this year? Yeah, four or five. Yeah, and got everyone. That never happens. So she is phenomenal. She's done an awesome job leading this team. And I really appreciate having her on my team. So she's awesome. So good afternoon. It's my pleasure to provide you with the quarterly foundation update. It's been a while since I've been here and provided an update for the foundation. So I'll start by letting you know that how we ended up in the 2020 academic year. We ended on a historic high. We awarded $1.3 million in scholarships to 1,280 students. That is the most scholarship dollars ever awarded in the history of the GRCC Foundation. And that is due to the team in the foundation as well as our financial aid team. It would not have been possible without their collaborative effort and understanding that the goal is to make sure that every dollar available to students for scholarships is awarded. And they sat down and made sure that happened. And to ensure that that would happen, especially this year with the pandemic, we awarded scholarships in the summer semester. That's not something that we normally do. So our students benefited greatly from this collaborative work, and I'm very proud of that team. Now for the 2021 academic year, we're off to a great start. For the fall semester, we've awarded $872,743 in scholarships to 771 students. This awarding process will continue through the winter semester, and we are finding that the word has gotten out about scholarships, the word has gotten out about GRCC, and I have lots of parents calling, how do I get a scholarship for my student? So that's really good news as well. Our community is supporting us in that scholarship work, and we are very appreciative to the community for that. In addition to being awarded scholarship dollars, we're also committed to helping these students be successful at GRCC. So all of those students who got scholarships attended a mandatory scholarship recipient workshop. And we offered those throughout the summer in person, and we did those virtually. And those scholarships are aimed at exactly that, at making sure that our students are successful and making sure that our students know the services on campus that are at their disposal. Things like tutoring, things like our Get Help page, and lots of services that many times our scholarship recipient students won't ask about. So we let them know that in advance. The GRCC, I'm really happy to report the GRCC Foundation Board of Directors has a new member just as of today. Jen Martin has joined the board as the representative from Meyer Incorporated, and we look forward to welcoming her officially to our October Foundation Board meeting. You should have all received an invitation to the grand opening ribbon cutting for the Veterans Center that Lisa talked about for the grant that we received grant dollars to fund. That is taking place on October 6th at 10 a.m. And we're excited to announce that Representative Peter Meyer has agreed to join us that morning as a speaker for that event. The space looks amazing, and I hope to see you all there so you can tour that. This year, the foundation has kicked off a new employee giving campaign for the 21-22 academic year. The goal for this campaign is a little different than our other campaigns. We're not looking at a dollar goal. We're looking to get 100% participation from our faculty and staff. And for the first time ever, we have a donor that stepped up to match the first $10,000 that is in donations that are made to the discretionary fund by our employees. So that's exciting. The first $10,000 that comes in automatically gets doubled. And to date, we have 32 employees that have contributed to this campaign, with 13 of those being first-time donors. And these 32 employees have donated a little over $9,000 so far. So we're really excited and appreciate those employees for stepping up and helping our students. We recently hosted a 500 Club Luncheon with the foundation. For those of you that might not know, the 500 Club is an organization or a group made up of faculty and staff members who donate $500 annually to the foundation for scholarships. And this year we welcomed 7 new members to that club. We welcomed Amy Bennett, Kim Squires, Audrey Heckwolf, Angela Salinas, Ben Smith, and Becky Yoder. We're really happy to have those new participants in that club. And this year, we also took the time to utilize that event to award our Armin Omedian Consecutive Giving Award. And we did that at the 500 Club this year because we had 2 employees that have given the most consecutively. 2 individuals, Robert Long, who's a retired biology faculty member, and Bob Siebelek, who is a physics faculty member currently. They've been giving to the foundation consecutively for the last 34 years. So we honored them with that award, and it's really exciting for me to see 2 employees get that this year, because it truly is testimony to the dedication of our faculty and the fact that they give to the students in the classroom and out of the classroom. And Robert and Bob are great examples of that. And finally, this week, our community celebrated the life of former trustee Deb Bailey. And I'm happy to announce, with the help of several donors, we were able to honor Deb's legacy at GRCC. And we were able to endow the Deb Bailey Legacy Scholarship in her honor. This scholarship will be awarded annually in perpetuity beginning in fall of 2022. And thank you to the donors that made this scholarship possible. It was very exciting on Monday. Our last donation came in that endowed it and got it to the $25,000 level, and just in time, because it was a great celebration, and she was a wonderful woman. And I am so happy that our students will see her name every year for those scholarships. So that concludes my report for today. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions or comments?
I have a question about, are our students on the Lakeshore eligible for scholarships from the foundation yet?
Yes.
Okay, so pre-millage, great.
Good question.
Hey, can you remind me
Mhm.
what the baseline for receiving a scholarship is?
Baseline it depends on the fund. If it's a donor operated fund, the donor sets the criteria for that. But for our discretionary scholarships at the foundation awards, that's a 2.0 GPA is the first. And then we look at need. So need and then the 2.0 GPA.
Is need determined by FAFSA?
Yep, absolutely.
Anyone else?
I have a question,
Yeah, go ahead.
my coming out party question, if you will. You mentioned that awards, scholarships are not typically awarded in the summer. Can you clarify a little bit as to why you might have mentioned it? And is this a practice that may continue in the future?
Scholarships typically aren't awarded in the summer because financial aid packages aren't available for summer. So the federal financial aid package is for fall and winter semester. We looked at, because we had so many dollars left over, and we didn't want those to go to waste, we did award those in the summer. And right now, the financial aid team with my foundation team is meeting to see what the impact of that was on our students and how successful students were and was it helpful. And once we look at that data, I think it's likely we will continue to award in the summer. But we are looking at the data to make sure that students persisted, because that is the whole thing. We're hoping to get students in and out within their program timeframe. Yep.
Anyone else? So thank you, Kathy, for all of your work. Exciting times for the college,
Yes,
and
it
it's
is.
great to have you part of that. So thank you so much. Dr. Pink.
Thank you, Chairperson Cucci, Kathy, you and your team. Thank you so much for the good work that the foundation does. A great event with the 500 Club celebration and everything. We'll be talking about you here in a little bit as well. Again, I'm going to ask Dr. Knettel if he'd come to the podium. As mentioned earlier, we are able to celebrate a $1.2 million TRIO grant around establishing an educational opportunities center. And without me going into that, I wanted to get Dr. Knettel to give you just a quick highlight of what those funds and what that means as far as our students are concerned. So Dr. K, if you would.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Anytime you get a chance to talk about $1.2 million, it is a good thing. And part of that 19.2 that Lisa raised, 1.2 of that is for a TRIO Educational Opportunity Center grant. It's over 5 years, so we're getting over 200,000 each year. And it is an opportunity center grant. So this gives GRCC the opportunity to do what we do best, and that's to inspire post-secondary pursuits within the community. It will focus on intentional outreach, admissions support, financial aid, completion of documents and the necessary reports, proactive, individualized advising. The resources of the grant will be used to provide information and outreach campaigns to members of our community to share details not only about GRCC, but about post-secondary education, and to provide support and assistance with completing applications, financial aid paperwork, and increase the focus on intentional and focused academic planning, helping students explore their purpose and rationale for attending post-secondary pursuits. The target service audience for the grant is low-income, first-generation students who are 19 years or older. So it aligns very nicely with some of our other programs. GRCC has a more intentional focus in its grant on collaborating with our Veterans Center to engage more veterans to ensure that service members, their families, veterans have access to a high quality education with interventions and options to help them navigate our post-secondary landscape. We are also taking this opportunity to provide access to credit for prior learning programs. By doing this, by sharing more information about credit for prior learning, students will learn how they may be able to earn credit for learning that they gained in the workforce or through other experiences. The credit for prior learning program honors work that individuals have completed in the workforce, and they can demonstrate and give them a head start on their credentials. And again, this is another piece that really helps inspire and motivate people to come back to school and pursue their education. as with all grants, we do have some accountability with this. We will be collecting data, and our work will focus on how many students we get to apply to a post-secondary institution, how many of them complete the necessary paperwork for financial aid, and how many of them enroll in a post-secondary education. And we'll be looking at how many complete a post-secondary degree. What's great about this grant is that it's additional support to what we already do to methodically and systematically reach students within our community and get them in and successfully through a post-secondary education. So GRCC will be this center, a hub within the community to educate people on post-secondary pursuits. Lisa Dopke and her team did an amazing job on applying for and being successful in this grant, but also some thanks to Tina Hoxie and her team, and Isaacson and others who contributed to the grant and will be leading the grant for us, which includes hiring a program director for the grant and some success coaches to work directly with members of the community on post-secondary pursuits. So that is a high-level overview of our TRIO Educational Opportunity Center grant. I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any additional clarity.
Anyone?
I have a question about how, if at all, this will overlap, like in the Venn diagram of Grand Rapids Promise. I mean, are these,
Yeah,
do we do outreach in existing programs, or do we do brand new outreach in other areas?
Yep, I think it's a little bit of both. It doesn't have an exact overlap with Promise Zone yet, because this is focusing on 19 years or older, and a lot of our Promise Zone students are recent graduates. We do have some students in the class of 2020 who may fit into this, but also this is a good addition to what we're doing with Reconnect as well. So it gives us some additional funds to do some of the work we're already doing, but it also gives us an opportunity to reach out to new individuals and expand what we do. And I do sense from the application and from some of the things that we work with, we'll be collaborating with the best communications team in the land and David Murray to do some additional outreach for our community.
Okay. And is the outreach just through comms, or is it also relationships?
I think, yeah, it's all of that. It's the relationships that we currently have. It's members of the board going out and saying, if you need information about post-secondary, GRCC is now an educational opportunity center. They can help you with this work.
And some of that will also, as the provost mentioned, will also come through the new Veterans Center. So as we look at that, and I hope you can make that October 6th grand reopening, if you will, our new Veterans Center director, Patrick Coleman, joins Janice Holton in that work. And some of these focus areas, again, it's a TRIO grant. So when you think about TRIO and what TRIO really focuses and stands strongly on are some of those students who are first gen, low socioeconomic, returning students, low wage. You see a lot of those things within this grant that give us this opportunity to really focus on some populations in a way that we probably hadn't been able to laser focus before. And I think that'll be very helpful to us.
Sounds promising. And one of the places where my brain went is, I can't remember the name of it, if it's TIP, but the students who are eligible because they were on Medicaid for an extended amount of time, and the money that's left on the table because of not pursuing.
Yeah, what we've discovered, even with Promise Zone and other programs, is the financial aid piece, navigating the complicated world of financial aid, completing a FAFSA, knowing everything that's available to them. This will help us address that and provide that outreach and financial literacy to our community.
Dr. Canetto, if I understood you correctly, students will be getting credit for skills that they have acquired in the workforce.
Well, that's so what we want to do is GRCC has a credit for prior learning program where through a portfolio review from work that you've done, you could submit a portfolio that's reviewed by a faculty member and there's credit equivalencies given. Part of what this is to do is to expand what that process can be like at GRCC and how we can work with our community to have them understand how some of the things that they have done in the workforce through military service may be translated to credit. And this gives us a really good opportunity to expand expand what we do, but also provide additional information about credit for prior learning programs.
I commend you. It's a brilliant idea. We both benefit, and it draws the business workforce development community closer to the college and vice versa.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one
Go
more
ahead.
question, and forgive me, but this
No,
is
it's
a
okay.
good problem to have. I just want to clarify, in our consent agenda, we have two trio continuation funding reports. Are those separate and distinct from
Yeah.
this?
Yes.
These are
Yeah.
continuations
Yes,
from
those are,
from
new
other
grants are
grants.
already on
Okay,
campus. Yeah.
thank you.
Dr. K, thank you for that. Trustees, you'll hear more and more about as we get down the road on what that work looks like. Again, big thanks to Lisa and her team and all those involved. Tina Hoxie, awesome job as usual. Couple of things before I shut up. So many of you were part of here about a month or so ago. We were able to, if you remember, my goodness, 2 years ago, when I told you about this old JCPenney over in Holland that we were looking at purchasing. And about 2.5 years ago, we went over there and we looked at that facility. Many of you were part of that. And we were looking at this old shell of a JCPenney. It was so nice 2 weeks ago, a month ago now, my goodness. It was so nice that here 2 years later, what you see on the screen is now GRCC Lakeshore campus. And we did the grand opening. Many of you were part of that. We did the grand opening, and in that grand opening, not only had the ribbon cutting, but also that weekend had open house events, to which we had somewhere around 600 people on Saturday come through that facility to look at it. And what was so nice about that, some were there to enroll, some were there to ask about enrollment, some were there just to see the place because they had heard and they just wanted to see. And so a big congratulations to our folks of getting that up and running. Then if you remember, we also that same week, as you see, had our progressive openings of 3 of our 4 locations, the reopening of the Raleigh J. Finkelstein Hall and its completed renovation. Also the Applied Technology Center, you see David Bottrall there and family as we celebrated opening the new wing of the ATC. If you haven't seen that, friends, and walk around a bit, please do. And then also over on the DeVos campus to open Ender Hall, Stephen C. Ender Hall, and to celebrate that with Steve and Karen. That's a beautiful facility now. And then the final one, the former Lettinga Hall, which is now Custer Alumni House, Dave and Karen Custer, and their kind generosity helping us get that done. And so many of you were a part of those. I wanted to bookmark it and say, how proud I hope that you are of the good work that our folks did in terms of getting that done. I told Kathy Mullins, Dr. Mullins, I was going to call her out again, her team in getting those grand reopening ceremonies and celebration events are the ones to be thanked for that. And so beautiful facilities that we're able to celebrate at this time with that, with those reopenings. And that is my report, trustees. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Pink. I don't know over the last 26-7 years how many trustees of this organization can say that they were trustees when we cut 4 ribbons in 1 week. It may never happen again. I mean, it's privileged space to be, and kudos to you, Dr. Pink, and the staff that's out there. Thank you so much. So annually, we are also privileged to get an update/reflection from the Faculty Association Chair, Dr. Frank Connor, and I'll invite Dr. Connor to come to the podium at this time.
I am a 500 member, so, you know.
Yes, you are.
That's the shortest report that man has given to us.
Right, we should start shaming people. Stand up if you are.
Yeah.
I can also probably getting really close to approaching Robert and Bob too, as far as number of years.
Yeah.
Not as a 500. I joined that later. I didn't really know what it was to begin with. So normally I have a script when I come here. It's been quite a while. I don't today. I don't have a script. I'm not here to challenge as I do sometimes. I'm not here on a particular issue that sometimes I bring to the board. It's just been a while, and I am the representative of GRCC's faculty. And because of that, I have a place on the agenda when I want to use it. Also, we have a new board member that I have not met, and I wanted to make that acquaintance. The rest of you, I've had various years of experience with. What I want to talk about today really is just faculty. And why do I want to talk about faculty? Well, the reality is you all as a board engage with the administration all the time. That's your role. You're aware of their efforts. And I don't by any means suggest that you don't appreciate the work of faculty. I know you do, but I'm a sociocultural cognitive psychologist. And I know that meaning making is created through context and community. And so today, I just want to spend a little bit of time expanding your community. And what that means is talking about faculty. We all know that the core business of Grand Rapids Community College is learning, and that the nexus of that happens in the classroom. I want to take you back to a Monday, right after spring break. I'm sitting in my office, and I'm thinking his future. Provost Canetto walks in to my office and says, there's this virus happening. And President Pink has said, we need a plan. Now, none of us think anything's going to happen, but we need a plan. That was on a Monday. So we're talking it through. On Wednesday, I get a phone call, an email. I blanked it out. I have no idea. We're shutting down campus. On Monday, we're going fully virtual. Now, I want you to think about for a moment, it takes months, sometimes years, to develop a new teaching modality. The faculty at Grand Rapids Community College did it in a weekend. That is amazing. Typically, to create a new modality, it takes 3 to 5 years to get comfortable with it. We then did it, the entire college, reworked in a summer. We shifted everything to hybrid. We didn't have a big hybrid presence, but to where students part of the time are with us and part of the time are online. We took classes that we never could imagine be online, and we made them online. We developed a whole new modality, synchronous virtual learning, where as opposed to being in the room, and you're very aware with it because your board meetings went to virtual, but we had to create whole new curricula around that. It's actually impossible to think about what happened. But it wasn't just the classroom. We had student services, advising, counseling, assessment. We did transfer fairs online. We revamped disability service. We even found a way to do food pantry in a different way. But I also want to remind everybody that we still had faculty come to campus. So while many of us were finding alternative ways, you can't do healthcare virtually. You can do a little bit, but you can't do all of it. You can't teach welding. You can't teach construction trades. You can't have a child care center and not have children show up. So faculty adapted very quickly. We have approximately 250 full-time and close to 400 adjunct when we include classroom faculty and we include advisors, et cetera. And to exemplify how COVID has changed our lives, for fall right now, we just hired 35 new adjunct in arts and sciences. In workforce development, we added 24 if you count the summer. I personally, as a chair, interviewed 25 adjunct to cover 17 classes. So why? Very simply, we're responding to COVID. We have smaller class sizes, which means we have more sections. We had students who showed up at the last minute. Advising is contacting department heads and saying, can you add sections? Can you add sections? Can you add sections? Faculty stepped up. As mentioned earlier, we lost folks. The current context suggested to them, I don't want to teach as many classes, or I want to retire early. So that rework was phenomenal. It's not just about faculty. I'll throw out a few more kudos here. IT, I was just talking with someone, Mandy Tomlinson had to process 35 adjuncts at 4:30 on a Friday for classes that started on Monday. Our APSS staff is amazing. Each one of those classes have coordinators that worked with the faculty to get them up to speed to teach on Monday. We continue to modify, we continue to adapt. We learn from the changes, we keep what works, and we toss out what didn't. The biggest complaint I heard from faculty was, how do I help my students learn? They were focused on student learning. How can I assess when I can't even see them? How do we make this happen? We're not the only ones in the community. Obviously, the healthcare folks, our colleagues in K-12, I mean, lots of people stepped up. I'm not asking for anything today. It's rare, right? I'm just asking for understanding. The GRCC faculty stepped up. This institution in the community should be proud. As the president of the Faculty Association, I'm proud to represent these folks. And I just think they need their horn tooted a little bit. And that's all I'm doing.
Frank, thanks. Thanks for that reminder. I'm trying to come up with words that expresses this board's appreciation for all of what you folk have had to go through over the last year and a half. And I'm not finding the right words to express that appreciation. Only you know what it feels like to change from one modem to another modem overnight. Some of us have a little feel for that because some of us professionally, our background is education. But certainly know that we know how committed you and your team are to the students that this institution serves, and we're incredibly grateful for that. Comments from anybody else? Questions?
I'll just echo what Chairperson Cucci said, and the faculty is the first interface in many cases with the students who we are here to serve. And I don't think thank you, I don't think we are so incredibly grateful for you is enough, but I'm going to say it. Thank you. I mean, you go above and beyond in normal times, and what you did during COVID was extraordinary. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to add that this isn't over either. And, and so, yes, the thank you for where we've been, but also understanding this is continuing and, and sharing that with everyone, understanding that this is something that's continuing on. This is something that we're still dealing with, that things are still changing, and that we're still working and shifting in real time constantly. One of the things that you said is, keeping what works. And, and I think that's this key part too, that when you're in it and you're trying so hard every day to just move to the next thing and shift, how do we take with us those learnings? How does that help us into the future? How do we capture some of that and celebrate it and revamp it and continue to build and work? So yeah, pass on, all of our thanks and us our understanding that this isn't a thing. This is a journey. We didn't reach our destination in this, and that we know that there's still so much work to do, and it's that much harder because we're a year and a half more tired and flustered and frustrated and all of those things.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Dr. Connor, before you leave, Chairperson Cucci, if I may, and I think Dr. Connor knows, I still believe our faculty is the best faculty you're going to find anywhere. I mean, it's what I say every commencement, it's what I say every opening day, and it's meant because of things that Dr. Connor just shared, of how they always knock it out of the park for the sake of our students. The other thing I wanted to mention though, Dr. Connor, while I have you up there, so trustees, real quick, I will tell you that several years ago when I was at the University of Central Oklahoma, one thing that we would do at that regional institution is that we regularly participated in something known as the International Transformative Learning Conference. What that conference is it brings together researchers on transformative learning from all over the world to come together and talk about practices, best practices, research around what is transformative learning. How do you take learning in higher education and truly transform the individual? Not just thinking in terms of what did I teach, but how did I transform the individual? It's interesting research. We were very focused on that. We had a Center for Transformative Learning. Well, then I get here to GRCC, and in one of the meetings I was having with Dr. Connor, he talked about being involved in the International Transformative Learning. I said, wait a minute. And I started throwing out some names that we both were very familiar with. Turns out, Dr. Connor and his involvement with that Transformative Learning Conference is such, and again, it's a global conference, that Michigan in April of next year will be hosting that international conference at East Lansing at MSU. And the thing that I love about that is that GRCC is the only community college that has seat at that planning and seat at that work. And so, Dr. Connor, before you step down, could you just give our board a little taste of what that means and what the conference and what that work is all about? I wanted to bookmark this for you, trustees, so that you understand not only the level of the work of conversation that Dr. Connor is having with research institutions around the world, but also GRCC, Grand Rapids Community College, having involvement with that. Dr. Connor, if you would, I'm sorry, take your time.
No, I could talk on this for a long time, but I'll give you, I think it's important to have a quick understanding of the background of the concept of transformative learning. Jack Mesereau was a sociologist at Columbia in New York City. And in the 1970s, he was studying non-traditional students who were going back to college. And he ended up studying women at community colleges in rural communities. And what he found is that for some of them, the experience of being a college student changed their understanding of who they are, their understanding of their place in the world. It created self-efficacy, it created self-direction. It was a whole body of positive pieces. In 1978, he wrote an article that was picked up where he used this language of transformative learning, and he had studied this phenomenon, laid out a series of steps. In 1998, he brought together a group of colleagues and scholars working in this area at Columbia. I was fortunate to be part of that group, so I went to New York and was part of that community, because I'm a sociocultural cognitive scientist, but my practice field is transformative learning. I'm interested in the way in which education, and most of us who are working in this field are either researchers, practitioners, and many of the practitioners are working in places like organizational development or diversity and inclusion, ways in which you can change the way in people think about themselves, their organization, the community, et cetera. And so the first conference was in 98, organized primarily by Jack and his graduate students. At that, we had this wild idea that we would continue to have conferences. At that point, it was Transformative Learning Conference. I think the 5th conference was in Greece, and then I guess Canada, then Greece, the Bahamas. I've only been to one that was out of the country, but we started making it larger and more advanced. And so then we got a large contingency of international folks involved. So President Pink is correct. In this group of researchers, on a weekly basis, I interact with faculty at MSU, Columbia, University of Georgia, and a whole group of primarily R1 research universities. People know our name. We are part of that community, which is a very rare piece. One of my goals, which is where I've asked the president and I've asked others, is that the work of community colleges is transformative. We just don't talk about ourselves. We don't research ourselves. We don't publish what we do. And what I'm trying to do as being Grand Rapids Community College, being a co-sponsor, John Dirks at Michigan State and myself, we are the co-chairs, is to get more community college involvement and more recognition for the work of community colleges. Let me tie this back to my original presentation. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only faculty member at Grand Rapids Community College who does this kind of work. We have a body of real experts and practitioners who don't draw attention to themselves. President Pink asked me about putting something into my presentation. I said, no, this is not about me. This is about faculty. We just do our work. But we have some tremendous people here. We have truly some world-class experts. The more we can do to get that out there, the better the world will be.
Thank you
Good
for
stuff.
that, Dr.
Yeah.
Connor. I really wanted you guys to be aware because what Dr. Connor just said, aside from just, as he said, him and others, that kind of work, again, at a level that you usually aren't going to hear about, puts your community college and this community's college in a place at an international level that folks know your name. They know the work that happens in these doors. And I wanted you to have that level of knowledge and pride of what your community's college is all about.
Good stuff. All right.
I was
thanks.
sending an email to Australia while I was sitting there. Somebody was emailing me about the conference. So
I
Thank you,
hope
Dr.
the
Connor.
world conference you went to was in Canada and not in the Bahamas.
it was the Bahamas, sorry.
So, anyway, thanks so
I
much.
didn't go to the one in Greece. That's
Thanks so much for your work, Frank. Appreciate that. We're going to continue on with our agenda. We have no formal communication to the board that I'm aware of. Kathleen, I don't.
We do not.
We do not. Oh, let's go then to approve the consent item. A motion, please, to approve the consent items in our agenda.
So moved.
Is there support for that?
Support.
Conversation, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that same sign. We do have one item, I believe, purchase over 100,000 in our material. I think the shuttle to and from the Sneeden campus. A motion, please, to approve that purchase.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
Support for that?
Support.
There's support. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Now we've reached the time, last opportunity for public comment. If anyone out there wishes to address the board on any matter relative to the college, you're welcome to do that at this time. I'm not seeing anybody move forward, so I'll even stop my instructions on how to do that. And we're going to move on to, we reached the end of our meeting. Trustees, an opportunity for final comment if anyone wishes to make comment on any matter.
Just have one quick comment. I was able to attend the Police Academy graduation about 2 weeks ago. And just the energy, the excitement, the pride of all the cadets and all the parents. You know, one of the best parts about this job is going to graduation.
Yeah, that's right.
Being part of those celebrations. So congratulations to all those recent graduates.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, thank you, Kenyatta. I was also there, and Jermaine Reese is a real hero and an extraordinary educator, and we wish him well in his next position.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone else?
I'd like to make a comment about Dr. Connor mentioned world class, and there's something I've noticed that's going on here that is also world class, in addition to, I think, our ability to get grants, and that is the lecture series for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for this school year. It's incredible. I was able to attend the lecture by the author and leader Austin Channing Brown last week, who is part of the interfaith literacy element of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion lecture series. She talked about how the notion of loving our neighbor in many faith traditions interfaces with injustices. And she is a world-class voice. And if you look at the rest of the lectures that are coming, the authors, the voices, these are some of the most prominent voices on some of the biggest, most important issues our nation is grappling with right now. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Pink and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for bringing these voices to our campus, world-class. Secondly, I want to thank our COVID-19 task force on campus. This summer, my mother was diagnosed with metastatic cancer. And so through the course of this summer, I have learned a great deal about virus transmission and virus transmission among people who are vaccinated. And we've learned that even though my family and I and my dad are vaccinated, we can still take the virus to my mother, who is immunocompromised because she's on a treatment of chemotherapy. The task force, like the faculty at this institution, over the course of the past year and a half, has done amazing work with science that is being determined day by day. And you're making life or death decisions here. And I just want to thank you so much, because you're not just keeping us safe, our students, our faculty, our staff, you're keeping the health and safety of others in mind in our greater community. So thank you.
Trustee Brunsma, before I want to make sure and call out, I fully agree with you about our diversity lecture series. And I want to call out Dr. B. Athena McNeely-Cobham for putting together that stellar lineup. I want to give credit where credit's due, and she definitely deserves that. So thank you for that.
Anyone else?
Hey, earlier I wanted so badly to be able to offer up some gesture related to what Dr. Frank was saying, and words just failed me, and I usually am not speechless, but the heaviness of the moment. And I think even hearing about the diversity series with the STEM lecture coming up is just another artifact of the greatness of the pride that the people who work here make things happen every day, just the magic. So again, words fail me, but just echoing what I've heard already around the table about the pride and the service of excellence that folks who work here give every day. Just want to add to that.
Thanks, Brandy.
I just want to take a moment to communicate my appreciation to this group, and also reflecting on Dr. Connor speaking. I remember my first day at GRCC a long time ago, and I may not remember all the folks I came across in my journey in higher education, but I remember the relationships that I built with faculty members, and your words just resonated with me on a number of levels, and I just wanted to say thank you. And like Brandy, it took me a few minutes just because I was thinking about that, but I hold a lot of memories about this place, and I hope to continue that in a different role here. So I just wanted to say that I'm very excited, very passionate about this institution, and I hope to continue that work with you all. So thank you for having me here.
Wonderful meeting. A lot of good things going on. It was a joy just to hear all of what's going on campus. It's so good to be back here together again. We're going to adjourn this meeting, and we'll be back in November for our next meeting. So this meeting is adjourned.